Summer, 1878. Colorado. Martha Ann Brennan dropped to her knees in the middle of the dirt road. Her arms wrapped tight around 4 crying children. The youngest screamed against her chest. The oldest boy tried to pull her up, but she couldn't move. 3 towns had turned her away. 3 times she'd begged for work. 3 times they'd looked at her children and shook their heads. She had 17 cents left. No food since yesterday morning, and nowhere left to go. Subscribe now and follow Martha's story to the very end. Comment your city below. Let me see how far this story travels. The dust stuck to Martha's tears. She didn't wipe them, didn't have the strength. "Mama," Sammy said, 5 years old and already sounding like a man. "Mama, get up." She couldn't answer him. Her throat burned. Her legs had given out 3 steps ago, and now the road pressed hot against her knees through her worn calico dress. "Mama, people are looking." Let them look, she thought. Let them see what they did. Lily Rose, 4 years old, tugged at her sleeve. "Mama, I'm thirsty." "I know, baby." "Mama, Jake's crying." "I know." Baby Ruth wailed against her chest, fists beating weak against Martha's collarbone. The child hadn't stopped crying since morning. Teething, hungry, hot, all of it at once. Martha pressed her lips to Ruth's damp hair and closed her eyes. 17 cents. That's what she had left in the world. 17 cents, 4 children, and a body that refused to take another step. "Ma'am," a woman's voice, sharp, annoyed. Martha looked up. A lady in a clean blue dress stood 3 feet away, parasol blocking the sun, nose wrinkled like she'd stepped in something foul. "You're blocking the road," the woman said. Martha stared at her. "I apologize." "Well, move then." Sammy stepped forward, small fists clenched. "My mama's tired. Leave her alone." The woman's eyes went wide. "Excuse me, you teach your children to speak that way?" Martha pulled Sammy back. "He's hungry. We all are." "That's not my concern." "No," Martha said, voice cracking. "I don't suppose it is." The woman huffed and walked around them, skirts swishing. Martha watched her go. Watched her disappear into the general store with its painted sign and clean windows. That store. She'd tried there first this morning. "We ain't hiring," the man had said before she'd finished her sentence. "I can stock shelves, clean floors, anything." "Lady, look at yourself. Look at them kids. You think customers want to see that?" She'd left without another word. Tried the hotel next. No rooms for someone who can't pay. "I'm not asking for a room. I'm asking for work." Same answer. The church after that, a white building with a tall steeple and a preacher who wouldn't meet her eyes. "We have nothing to offer, I'm afraid." "I just need a meal for my children. 1 meal. I'll work for it." "Times are hard for everyone, Mrs. Brennan. Martha Brennan." "Mrs. Brennan." He'd looked at her, then really looked, and she'd seen it. Not cruelty, just exhaustion. The same exhaustion she saw in every face in this town. "I wish I could help. Truly." But he couldn't. Nobody could. Or would. Now she knelt in the dirt, with the sun beating down, and 4 children clinging to her like she was the last solid thing in the world. And maybe she was. "Mama." Lily rose again. "Mama, there's a man." Martha's head snapped up. He stood 10 feet away, tall, wide shoulders, a battered hat pulled low over eyes she couldn't quite see. Dust covered his boots and the bottom of his trousers. He held a rope in one hand, the other resting easy at his side. Behind him, a wagon loaded with supplies waited in the shade. He didn't speak, just watched. Martha's arms tightened around her children. Men had looked at her before, hungry looks. Cruel looks, looks that made her sleep with a knife under her pillow. This one was different. She couldn't say how. Just that he wasn't moving closer. Wasn't demanding anything. Just standing there like he had all the time in the world. "You need help." he asked finally, voice low, not unkind. No. He nodded once. Didn't move. I said no. I heard you. Then why are you still standing there? Because you're lying. Martha's jaw tightened. Excuse me. You're kneeling in the middle of the road with 4 young ones, all of them crying, and you're telling me you don't need help. He tilted his head slightly. That's a lie. It's none of your business. Didn't say it was. Sammy pushed forward again. Leave my mama alone, mister. The man looked down at him. Something shifted in his face, not a smile, but close. You're a brave one. I ain't scared of you. Didn't say you were. Martha pulled Sammy back. Don't talk to him. He's just standing there, Mama. I know. The man took 1 step closer. Martha flinched. He stopped immediately, held up both hands. Easy, he said. I ain't gonna hurt you. Just wanted to say there's water in my wagon, clean water, if the little ones are thirsty. Lily Rose's eyes went wide. Mama, he said water. I heard him. Can I have some, please, Martha's throat burned. Her children were thirsty, hungry, exhausted. And here was a stranger offering water like it was nothing. Nothing was ever nothing. What do you want? She asked. Nothing. Don't lie to me. The man's eyes met hers. Brown. Warm, but guarded. A scar ran from his temple down past his ear, white against sun-darkened skin. I don't want anything, he said. Just offering water. Take it or don't. Your choice. Your choice. When was the last time anyone had given her a choice? Mama? Jake whimpered, 3 years old and quieter than he'd ever been. Mama, I'm so thirsty. Martha closed her eyes, opened them. Fine. The man turned, walked to his wagon, pulled out a canteen. He came back, stopped a few feet away, and held it out. Didn't step closer, just waited. Sammy took it, looked at Martha. She nodded. He drank first, then passed it to Lily Rose, then Jake. Martha held it to Ruth's lips last, letting the baby swallow in small sips. The water was cool, clean. It tasted like mercy. Thank you, Martha said. The words stuck in her throat. You're welcome. She handed the canteen back. Their fingers didn't touch. You got somewhere to go? He asked. No. Family nearby? No. Husband? Martha's jaw tightened. Dead. 8 months. The man nodded. No pity in his face. Just acknowledgement. How'd you end up here? Wagon train. We couldn't keep up. They left us at the last town. I walked here hoping for work. And nothing. She looked at the street, the buildings, the people who passed without glancing her way. Nobody's hiring. Not a widow with 4 children. They tell you that. They didn't have to. The man was quiet for a long moment. Then he crouched down, bringing himself to eye level with the children. Lily Rose studied him with open curiosity. Jake hid behind Martha's skirt. Sammy stood his ground, chin lifted. What's your name, brave one? The man asked. Sammy hesitated. Looked at Martha. She gave a small nod. Samuel. But everyone calls me Sammy. Sammy. The man extended his hand. I'm Caleb. Caleb Stone. Sammy shook it, small hand, disappearing into the larger one. You got a strong grip, Sammy. My pa taught me. Something flickered across Caleb's face. He taught you well. He stood, looked at Martha again. She braced herself for the question she knew was coming. The offer, the price. But he didn't ask what she expected. Instead he said, What can you do? Martha blinked. What? I asked what you can do. What skills you got. She stopped, swallowed. Why? Because I got a ranch 15 miles west. Lost my cook 3 weeks ago. She ran off with a cattle driver. He said it plain, like he was discussing the weather. I got 40 head of cattle, 2 seasonal hands, who who can't boil water without burning it, and a house that hasn't been properly cleaned since my mother passed. Martha stared at him. I ain't asking for charity, he continued. I'm asking what you can do. Can you cook? Yes. Clean? Yes. Sew, mend clothes? Yes. Can you keep a house running while 4 children are underfoot? Martha almost laughed. Almost. I've been doing that alone for 8 months. Caleb nodded. Then I'm offering you a job. Room and board included. There's a small cabin on the property used to be for hired hands, but it's empty now. Needs work, but it's got 4 walls and a roof. Martha's heart slammed against her ribs. You don't know me. No. You don't know anything about me. I know you walked God knows how far with 4 children because nobody would give you a chance. I know you didn't ask me for money. I know your boys got more courage than half the men in this town. He paused. That's enough. People will talk. People always talk. They'll say things about me, about you. Let them. Martha's hands shook. She pressed them against her thighs to still them. This was too easy, too good. Things like this didn't happen to women like her. There had to be a catch. There was always a catch. What do you want from me? She asked, voice low. Really? Caleb's expression didn't change. I want someone to cook meals that don't taste like leather. I want clean clothes and a house that doesn't smell like cattle. I want to come home at the end of the day and not eat alone. He held her gaze. That's what I want. Nothing more. And if I say no, then I'll give you a ride to the next town, fill your canteen, and wish you luck. He straightened. Choice is yours. Your choice. There it was again. That word she'd almost forgotten existed. Martha looked at her children. Sammy watching Caleb with something like hope. Lily Rose already half asleep on her feet. Jake clutching her skirt like a lifeline. Ruth finally quiet in her arms. She had 17 cents. No food, no shelter, no options. But this wasn't about options anymore. This was about survival. I'll work hard, she said. I believe you. I won't take charity. Didn't offer any. And if you try anything at all, I'll put a knife through your hand. Caleb's lips twitched. Not quite a smile. Fair enough. He turned, walked to the wagon, started moving supplies to make room. Martha watched him, still not quite believing. Mama? Sammy tugged at her sleeve. Are we going with him? Yes, baby. Is he a good man? Martha looked at Caleb Stone, this stranger with the scarred face and quiet voice who'd asked her what she could do instead of what she'd done. I don't know yet, she said honestly. But we're going to find out. The ride took 3 hours. The children slept in the back of the wagon piled together like puppies, while Martha sat on the bench beside Caleb and watched the land roll by. Neither of them spoke for the first hour. Martha was grateful for the silence. Her mind raced with questions, doubts, fears. Finally, she asked, Why'd you stop? Caleb didn't look at her. What do you mean? In town. You could have walked right past. Everyone else did. A long pause. The horse's hooves beat steady against the dirt. I saw your boy, Caleb said. Sammy. He was trying to help you up. Couldn't have been more than 50 pounds, but he was pulling at your arm like he could lift the whole world. Another pause. Reminded me of someone. Who? My brother. Martha waited. He died at Gettysburg, Caleb said. Wasn't much older than your boy when he first started looking after me. Ma was sick. Pa was gone more than he was home. Daniel took care of everything. His jaw tightened. He had that same look, like giving up wasn't something he knew how to do. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. Doesn't make it hurt less. Caleb glanced at her. Something shifted in his eyes. No, it doesn't. They rode in silence again. The sun blazed overhead, but a breeze came down from the mountains carrying the smell of pine and wild grass. "Your husband," Caleb said eventually. "What happened?" Martha's hands tightened in her lap. "Typhoid. It took him fast. 3 days from the first fever to the end." "You were with him." "Every moment." "And after?" "The bank took the farm. Said Thomas owed money I didn't know about. I sold everything I could, packed what was left, and joined the first wagon train heading west." She stared at the horizon. "I thought I'd find work, start over, give my children something better." "You will." "You don't know that." "No," Caleb agreed. "But I know what giving up looks like, and you ain't there yet." Martha turned to look at him. "How do you know?" "Because you're still fighting." Before she could respond, the wagon crested a small hill, and Martha saw it. The ranch spread out below them, a patchwork of fenced pastures and wooden buildings against a backdrop of distant mountains. Cattle dotted the fields, moving slow in the heat. A farmhouse sat at the center, white paint, peeling but sturdy. A barn stood nearby, doors open wide. "That's home," Caleb said. Martha's throat tightened. "It's beautiful." "It's a lot of work." "I'm not afraid of work." "I know." He guided the wagon down the slope, and Martha felt something shift in her chest. Not hope, she wasn't ready for hope yet, but something close. Something that felt like the first breath after nearly drowning. The cabin was small. One room with a loft, a cast-iron stove in the corner, 2 narrow beds pushed against opposite walls. Martha stood in the doorway, children gathered around her, and tried to remember the last time she'd had a roof that didn't leak. "It ain't much," Caleb said from behind her. "But the roof's solid and the stove works. I'll bring blankets from the house." "This is perfect," Martha said. Caleb shifted. "There's a pump out back. Water's clean. Outhouse is 20 yards north." "Thank you." "Kitchen's in the main house. You'll cook there, take your meals with the hands." He paused. "Unless that makes you uncomfortable." "I've eaten with field workers before." "These ain't field workers. They're cowboys. Rough around the edges." "I've handled rough." Caleb studied her for a moment, then nodded. "I believe you have." He left to tend the horses. Martha stepped inside, set Ruth on the nearest bed, and let herself breathe. "Mama." Lily Rose tugged at her skirt. "Is this our new home?" "For now, baby." "I like it." She spun in a small circle, arms out. "It smells like wood." "That's because it's made of wood, silly," Sammy said. But he was smiling. Martha couldn't remember the last time she'd seen him smile. Jake climbed onto the bed and bounced once. "Soft. Don't jump on the bed." "But it's soft." "I know, don't jump on it." Ruth began to fuss. Martha lifted her swayed, gently humming a tune she barely remembered. Something her own mother used to sing. A knock at the doorframe. Caleb stood there with an armful of blankets. "Forgot these." "Thank you." He set them on the empty bed, turned to leave, stopped. "There's bread in the kitchen," he said, "and cold beef from last night. Help yourself." "I can't." "You'll work tomorrow. Tonight you eat." His voice left no room for argument. "Your children need food. Take it." Martha's eyes burned. She blinked hard. "Thank you." Caleb tipped his hat and walked out without another word. That night Martha fed her children for the first time in 2 days. Real food. Bread that wasn't stale. Meat that wasn't rancid. Cool water from a pump that ran clean. They ate at the long table in the main house kitchen, just the 5 of them. Caleb had disappeared somewhere, the barn, she thought. The 2 ranch hands were nowhere to be seen. Lily Rose ate until her belly rounded. Jake fell asleep with bread still clutched in his fist. Sammy ate slowly, watching the door like he expected someone to burst through and take it all away. Martha understood. She felt the same. After dinner, She carried the children back to the cabin one by one, tucked them into bed, watched their faces smooth out in sleep, peaceful in a way they hadn't been in months. She should sleep too. Her body screamed for it. Instead, she stepped outside and sat on the small wooden porch, watching the stars appear one by one. The night was quiet. Crickets sang in the grass. Cattle lowed somewhere in the distance. The air smelled of hay and earth, and something sweet she couldn't name. "You should be sleeping." Martha jumped. Caleb stood at the edge of the porch, a lantern in his hand. "So should you," she said. "I don't sleep much." "Neither do I." He climbed the 2 steps and sat at the far end of the porch, leaving plenty of space between them. Set the lantern down. Its light flickered across his face, catching the scar on his temple. "How'd you get that?" Martha asked before she could stop herself. "The scar." Caleb touched it briefly. "Shrapnel. Battle of Antietam." "You fought in the war." "Most men my age did." "On which side?" "Union." Martha nodded. Thomas had fought too. Different battles, same war. "Does it still hurt?" "Sometimes, when the weather changes." Caleb lowered his hand. "Mostly I forget it's there." They sat in silence for a while. The lantern hissed softly. A moth circled its light. "I should tell you something," Martha said finally. Caleb waited. "My husband Thomas, he had a brother, Horace. He didn't come to the funeral. Didn't offer help when I lost the farm." She swallowed. "But a week before I left Missouri, he came to the boarding house where we were staying. Said he wanted to take the children." Caleb's expression didn't change, but something in his stillness sharpened. "Take them where?" "Back to his house. Said a woman alone couldn't raise 4 children proper. Said they'd be better off with family." "What did you say?" "I told him to go to hell." Caleb's lips twitched. "And?" "He said he'd be back. Said the law was on his side. Said a widow with no money and no home had no right to keep children she couldn't provide for." Martha's hands trembled. She clasped them together. "That's why I left," she said. "Not just for work. I left because I knew if I stayed he'd find a way to take them. He's got money, connections. I've got nothing. You've got them. For now." Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "He know where you went?" "No, I didn't tell anyone." "Then he can't find you." "He'll look. Horace doesn't give up." "Neither do you." Martha looked at him. In the lantern light, his face was all angles and shadows, hard and soft at once. "Why does this matter to you?" she asked. "You just met me." "Because I know what it's like to have someone try to take what's yours." He met her gaze. "And I know what it's like to stand alone against it." "What happened?" "My father's partner tried to claim half the ranch after Pa died. Said they had a handshake deal. Said the land was rightfully his." "What did you do?" "I fought. Took 2 years and every penny I had, but I kept what was mine." "And the partner?" "Moved to California." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Couldn't show his face in town after what came out in court." Martha studied him. "You're saying you'd help me. If Horace came." "I'm saying you're not alone anymore." He stood, picked up the lantern. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long." He walked off toward the main house, light swinging with each step. Martha watched him go. Then she turned back to the stars, brighter here than anywhere she'd ever been. For the first time in 8 months, she didn't feel like she was drowning. She felt like she was standing on solid ground, and that terrified her more than anything. The rooster crowed before dawn. Martha was already awake. She'd slept 3 hours, maybe 4, but her body was used to less. She dressed quickly, pulled her hair back, and checked on the children, all sleeping. Ruth's fever had broken sometime in the night, another small mercy. She walked to the main house, the morning air still cool, dew clinging to the grass. The kitchen was dark. She found matches, lit the stove, started coffee. Searched the pantry for flour, lard, eggs. By the time the sun crested the horizon, she had biscuits in the oven and bacon sizzling in the pan. The back door swung open. A man walked in. Not Caleb. Shorter, older, with a weathered face and a gray beard that hung to his chest. He stopped when he saw her. "Well," he said, "you must be the new one. Martha Brennan. And you are—" "Old Pete." He squinted at her. "Caleb said he was bringing back supplies. Didn't mention a woman. I'm the new cook." "That's so." He walked to the stove, peered at the bacon. "Smells better than anything Caleb's made in 3 weeks. I'll take that as a compliment." "Take it however you like." He poured himself coffee, took a long sip. "You got kids," Caleb said. "4. Pete whistled low. "You must have your hands full." "I manage." "I bet you do." The door opened again. Another man, younger, maybe 20, with sandy hair and a cocky grin. "I smell bacon," he announced. Then saw Martha and stopped short. "Oh, hello." "This is the new cook," Pete said. "Martha." "Martha." The young man extended his hand. "I'm Billy. Billy Hayes. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am." "Likewise. Caleb didn't mention you were pretty." "Billy." Pete's voice carried a warning. "What I'm just saying, don't." Billy held up his hands. "Fine, fine. No offense meant, ma'am." "None taken." Martha turned back to the stove. "Breakfast will be ready in 10 minutes." She heard them exchange a look behind her. Didn't care. Let them think what they wanted. She was here to work, not to make friends. The back door opened a third time. Heavy boots. She knew without looking. "Morning," Caleb said. "Coffee's ready," Martha replied. "Biscuits are almost done." He walked past her to the table, sat down. Pete and Billy joined him. For a moment, there was only the sound of forks on plates, chewing, swallowing. Then Pete spoke. "This is the best breakfast I've had in months." Billy nodded, mouth full. "Agreed." Caleb said nothing. But when Martha glanced at him, he was watching her with something that might have been respect. "You've got work today," she said. "I'll have dinner ready at sundown." "Lunch?" Billy asked hopefully. "I'll bring it to the fields." Billy grinned. "I think I'm in love." "Billy," Pete warned again. "With the cooking, I meant the cooking." Martha almost smiled. "Almost." "Get to work," Caleb said, standing. "All of you." The men filed out. Caleb paused at the door. "The children," he said. "They can stay in the cabin today. I'll have Pete check on them." "That's not necessary." "It's done." He tipped his hat. "Thank you for breakfast." And then he was gone. Martha stood alone in the kitchen, bacon grease cooling on the stove, and wondered how long this could possibly last. Nothing good ever lasted, but God help her, she wanted it to. By noon, Martha had cleaned the kitchen, started a stew for dinner, washed a pile of laundry she'd found festering in a basket, and hung it all to dry on a line behind the house. Her arms ached, her back screamed, but it was a good kind of pain, the kind that meant she'd earned her keep. She packed lunch in a basket, sandwiches, apples, a jug of water, and walked to the north pasture where Caleb had said the men would be working. The sun blazed overhead. She could feel it baking through her bonnet, pressing down on her shoulders like a physical weight. Summer in Colorado was brutal, but she'd grown up on a Missouri farm. Heat was nothing new. She found them at the fence line, shirts soaked with sweat, hammering posts into hard-packed earth. Billy saw her first. "Angel of Mercy," he called out. Pete smacked the back of his head. "Manners. What I'm grateful." Martha set the basket in the shade of a twisted juniper tree. "Eat before it gets warm." The men gathered around, grabbing sandwiches and water. Caleb hung back, wiping his face with a bandana. "You didn't have to walk all this way," he said. "You said you wanted someone to keep the house running." That includes feeding the men who work it. It's a mile from the house. I've walked farther. Caleb studied her, then nodded once. Thank you. You're welcome. She turned to leave. Mrs. Brennan. She stopped. Your children are fine. Pete looked in on them an hour ago. The oldest was reading to the others. Martha's chest tightened. Sammy. Still taking care of everyone, even when he shouldn't have to. Thank you, she said, for telling me. Caleb tipped his hat. See you at supper. She walked back to the house, the sun heavy on her back, and let herself believe just for a moment that maybe she'd found something worth keeping. That night after dinner, after the children were asleep, Martha sat on her cabin porch again. The door to the main house opened. Caleb emerged, crossed the yard, stopped at the edge of her porch. You did good today, he said. I did what needed doing. Same thing. He didn't sit this time, just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking out at the night. I want you to know something, he said. About why I hired you. Martha tensed. Here it comes. I wasn't looking for a cook, Caleb continued, or a housekeeper. I could make do well enough on my own. Then why? Because I saw your face when that woman told you to move. I saw how you held those children like you could protect them from the whole world with nothing but your arms. He turned to look at her. I've seen men crumble under less. You didn't. Martha's eyes burned. I don't need saving, she said. I know. I won't owe anyone. You won't. And I won't? Her voice broke. She stopped, breathed. Mrs. Brennan. Martha. He paused. Martha, I don't know what you've been through. I don't know who hurt you or what you're running from. But I want you to know something. What? You're safe here. His voice was quiet, certain. You and your children. As long as you want to stay, you're safe. Martha looked at him. This stranger who'd asked her one question and changed everything. Why? She whispered. Because everyone deserves a chance. He stepped back. Good night. He walked away, disappearing into the darkness. Martha sat alone on the porch, heart pounding, and let herself cry for the first time in months. Not from sadness, from something else entirely. Something that felt dangerously like hope. The first week passed faster than Martha expected. She rose before dawn, cooked breakfast, fed the children, cleaned the house, prepared lunch, delivered it to the fields, made dinner, bathed, the children, put them to bed, and collapsed onto her own mattress, with barely enough strength to pull the blanket up. It was the hardest she'd ever worked. It was the happiest she'd been in years. Mama, can I help? Sammy stood in the kitchen doorway, his small frame barely reaching the counter. Martha looked up from the bread dough she was kneading. You want to help? Mr. Stone said a man should learn to work. Martha's hands stilled. When did he say that? Yesterday, when I was watching him fix the fence. You were watching him. Sammy's chin lifted. He said I could. Martha turned back to the dough. Something tight wound in her chest. What else did he say? That his brother taught him to fix fences when he was my age. That learning young makes you strong. Did he now? Mama, are you mad? No, baby. She wiped her hands on her apron, crouched down to his level. I'm not mad. I just want to make sure Mr. Stone isn't asking too much of you. He's not asking anything. I wanted to watch. Why? Sammy looked at the floor. His small jaw worked. Because Pa used to let me watch him work, before he got sick. Martha's throat closed. She pulled Sammy into her arms, held him tight. He didn't cry. Neither did she. But she felt his small body tremble against hers. You can help, she whispered. Come knead this dough with me. They worked side by side, Sammy's small hands pressing into the flour, and Martha pretended not to notice when he smiled. That afternoon, Lily Rose disappeared. Martha was hanging laundry when she realized she couldn't hear the 4-year-old's constant chatter. Jake was playing in the dirt near the cabin. Ruth napped inside, but Lily Rose was gone. Sammy. Martha dropped the sheet she was holding. Where's your sister? She was here a minute ago. Where? I don't know, Mama, Martha was already running, past the cabin, past the main house toward the barn. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The horses, the cattle, 100 ways a child could get hurt on a ranch. Lily Rose. No answer. Lily Rose, answer me. She rounded the barn corner and stopped dead. Caleb stood near the chicken coop, Lily Rose perched on his forearm like a small bird. She was giggling, reaching toward a hen he held in his other hand. It's so soft, Lily Rose squealed. Careful now, she don't like fast movements. Why? Because chickens are nervous creatures, like some people I know. Am I a nervous creature? No, ma'am, you're a brave one. Martha's legs nearly buckled. Lily Rose! Both of them turned. Caleb's expression shifted when he saw her face. Mrs. Brennan. What are you doing with my daughter? The words came out sharper than she intended. Lily Rose's smile faded. Mama, I just wanted to see the chickens. You don't wander off without telling me, ever. But, ever. Lily Rose's eyes welled. Caleb set her down gently, and she ran to Martha, burying her face in her mother's skirt. I'm sorry, Mama. I know, baby, I know. Martha looked at Caleb. His face was unreadable, but something in his posture had stiffened. I should have sent her back, he said. I apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. Your face says different. Martha's jaw tightened. She wanted to explain. Wanted to tell him about the nights she'd lain awake imagining someone snatching her children while she slept. Wanted to tell him that trust didn't come easy when the world had given her every reason not to trust. But the words wouldn't come. She likes animals, Caleb said quietly. Followed me from the house. I should have brought her back immediately. Yes, you should have. A long silence stretched between them. Lily Rose sniffled against Martha's leg. It won't happen again, Caleb said. No, it won't. She took Lily Rose's hand and walked away, and she didn't look back, even though part of her wanted to. That night, Caleb didn't come to the porch. Martha sat alone watching the stars and told herself she didn't care. The second week brought trouble from town. Martha needed flour. The pantry was running low, and she'd promised the men fresh bread. So she loaded the children into the wagon, borrowed the old mare Caleb said she could use, and made the long ride into town. She felt the stairs before she saw them. People stopped on the boardwalk to watch her pass. Women whispered behind their hands. A man in a black coat looked at her, then looked away quickly. Martha kept her chin up. She'd known this would happen, had prepared for it. Hadn't she? The general store was quiet when she walked in. The same man who'd refused her work 2 weeks ago stood behind the counter. His eyes narrowed when he saw her. Mrs. Brennan. I need 10 pounds of flour. Sugar too if you have it. He didn't move. Heard you're out at the stone place. I am. Heard you're living there. I'm working there. There's a difference. Is there? Martha's hands curled into fists at her sides. Sammy pressed closer to her leg, watching the man with hard eyes. I need flour, Martha repeated. Are you going to sell it to me or not? The man leaned forward on his elbows. Some folks in town are talking, saying it ain't proper a woman like you living out there with a bachelor. A woman like me. A widow, with children, no husband. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. People got opinions. People can keep their opinions to themselves. Maybe, but opinions spread. He straightened. 10 pounds of flour will be 50 cents. Sugar's another quarter. Martha counted out the coins with trembling fingers, placed them on the counter. The man took them slowly, deliberately, then turned to gather her supplies. When he handed her the package, he leaned close. "Caleb Stone's a decent man," he said quietly. "Don't ruin him." Martha snatched the package from his hands. "I'm the cook, nothing more." "Sure you are." She walked out without another word, children trailing behind her, and she didn't breathe normally until the town disappeared behind the hill. "Mama!" Lily Rose tugged at her hand. "Why was that man mean?" "Some people don't understand things, baby." "Understand what?" "That being kind doesn't cost anything." Martha lifted her onto the wagon seat. "Remember that, Lily Rose. Being kind doesn't cost you a single penny, but being cruel costs you everything." "What's cruel?" "Being mean on purpose." "Like that man?" "Yes, like that man." Lily Rose was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mr. Stone isn't cruel." "No, he's not. He let me hold the chicken." "I know." "I think he's nice." Martha didn't answer. She flicked the reins and guided the mare toward home, and she tried not to think about what the man in the store had said. Don't ruin him. As if she could ruin anyone. As if she had that kind of power. But the words stuck in her chest like a splinter, and they didn't come out. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Martha was in the kitchen when she heard the horse. She wiped her hands and walked to the window, saw a rider coming up the main road. He wore a badge. Her blood turned to ice. By the time she reached the porch, Caleb was already there talking to the deputy. She couldn't hear their words, but she saw Caleb's posture change, saw his shoulders tighten. The deputy handed him an envelope, tipped his hat, rode away. Caleb stood there for a long moment staring at the paper in his hands. Then he turned and saw Martha. "Come inside," he said. She followed him to the kitchen. He set the envelope on the table, didn't sit. "This came from Missouri." Martha's legs gave out. She grabbed the back of a chair, steadied herself. "How did he find me?" "Don't know. Deputy said it was forwarded through 3 towns." "What does it say?" Caleb slid the envelope toward her. "Didn't open it. It's addressed to you." Martha's hands shook as she picked it up. The handwriting was familiar. She'd seen it on ledgers, on contracts, on the document that claimed her husband's debt. Horace. She tore it open. "Dear sister, I hope this letter finds you well. I was sorry to hear of your departure from Missouri. Mother was quite worried, as was I. We only want what's best for the children. I have taken the liberty of consulting with an attorney regarding their welfare. He assures me that a court in Colorado would be sympathetic to a family's concern for orphaned children living in unsuitable conditions. I will be arriving in Glenwood Springs on the 15th of August. I trust we can resolve this matter peacefully. Your brother, Horace Webb." Martha read it twice, 3 times. The words blurred. "Martha." She looked up. Caleb stood across the table watching her with steady eyes. "What does he want?" "The children." Her voice came out flat. "Dead." "He wants to take my children." "Can he?" "He thinks he can." "I didn't ask what he thinks. I asked if he can." Martha set the letter down. "I don't know. He has money, connections. I have nothing." "You have a job, a home, witnesses who can speak to your character." "It's been 3 weeks, Caleb. What do any of you know about my character? I know you work 16 hours a day without complaint. I know you read to your children every night, even when you're so tired you can barely stand. I know you walked into that town with your head high even though they treated you like dirt." His jaw tightened. "That's character enough for any judge. You don't understand how these things work." "Then explain it to me." Martha sank into the chair. Her hands still shook. She pressed them flat against the table. "Horace Webb is my husband's older brother. Thomas never spoke of him much, but I met him once at our wedding. He looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his boot." "Why?" "Because I was a farmer's daughter. Because I had nothing to offer except myself." She laughed bitterly. "Thomas didn't care. He married me anyway. But Horace never forgot. And now he wants your children. He says he wants what's best for them. But Horace doesn't care about children. He never married, never wanted a family. She looked at the letter. There's something else. Something he's not saying. What? I don't know. But there has to be a reason. Horace doesn't do anything without a reason. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked around the table, pulled out the chair beside her, sat down. When is he coming? August 15th. That's 2 weeks. Then we have 2 weeks to prepare. Caleb met her gaze. I told you, you're not alone anymore. This isn't your fight. It is now. Why? He didn't answer right away. Something shifted in his expression. Something she couldn't quite read. Because when I was 15, he said slowly, someone tried to take my brother away. Said my father couldn't care for 2 boys alone. Said we'd be better off in an orphanage. His voice hardened. My father fought. Spent every penny we had on lawyers. Nearly lost the ranch. What happened? He won. Barely. But Daniel got to stay. Caleb's hands curled on the table. He died 3 years later at Gettysburg. But for those 3 years we were together. That mattered. Martha's eyes burned. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just let me help. She looked at this man, this stranger, who'd asked her one question and changed everything. He sat beside her now like he belonged there, like he'd always been there. Why do you care so much? Because you deserve someone in your corner. He stood. I'll ride to town tomorrow. Find out what we're dealing with legally. You stay here. Keep the children close. Caleb. He stopped at the door. Thank you. He nodded once. Walked out. Martha sat alone at the table. The letter crumpled in her fist, and she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't going to lose everything again. The next morning, Caleb rode out before dawn. Martha fed the children, cleaned the house, tried to keep her hands busy so her mind wouldn't race. It didn't work. By noon, she'd scrubbed every surface twice and reorganized the pantry 3 times. Old Pete found her on her hands and knees, washing a floor that was already clean. Ma'am? She looked up. Pete. The boss told me what's happening. Martha sat back on her heels. Did he? Said you might need someone to talk to while he's gone. Pete shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. I ain't much of a talker, but I got ears. Despite everything, Martha almost smiled. Thank you, Pete. Don't thank me yet. I'm also supposed to tell you the children are in the barn with Billy. He's teaching the oldest one to rope. Martha's heart stuttered. He's what? The boy asked. Billy couldn't say no. She was on her feet before Pete finished speaking. The barn was loud with laughter when she reached it. Sammy stood in the center of the dirt floor, a small rope in his hands, swinging it in uneven circles. Billy crouched nearby, demonstrating. No, you gotta let it fly from your wrist, not your shoulder. Like this. Billy flicked his rope. It sailed through the air and landed perfectly around a fence post. Wow! Sammy's eyes went wide. Can I try again? Sure thing, kid. Just remember. Sammy. Both of them turned. Martha stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Mama, Billy's teaching me to rope. I can see that. Billy stood, dusted off his knees. Hope that's all right, ma'am. He was real eager. It's fine. The words came out stiff. Martha forced herself to relax. Just be careful. Yes, ma'am. We're being real careful. Lily Rose appeared from behind a hay bale, Jake toddling after her. Mama, look, I found a kitten. She held up a scrawny orange thing barely bigger than her hand. It meowed pitifully. Where did that come from? It was hiding in the hay. Can I keep it? Lily Rose. Please, Mama, it's all alone. Like we were. The words hit Martha like a fist. She looked at her daughter, at the tiny creature in her hands, at the hope burning in those young eyes. We'll ask Mr. Stone when he gets back. Really? Really? Lily Rose squealed and hugged the kitten close. Jake tried to pet it and nearly poked its eye out. Sammy went back to practicing his rope throws. Martha stood in the barn doorway watching her children laugh and play, and for just a moment she let herself forget about Horace Webb. For just a moment she let herself be happy. Caleb returned after sundown. Martha heard the horse and went out to meet him. His face was grim. What did you find out? He dismounted, led the horse toward the stable. Let's talk inside. They sat at the kitchen table, the same place they'd sat that morning. Martha's heart pounded. There's a judge in Glenwood Springs, Caleb said. Name's Harper. He's heard these cases before. And he's fair from what I'm told. But fair doesn't mean he'll side with you automatically. What does it mean? It means he'll want to see proof. Proof that you can provide for the children. Proof that they're being cared for properly. Proof that you're not... He stopped. Not what? Caleb's jaw worked. The attorney I spoke with said Horace will likely claim you're unfit. That living alone with a man who isn't your husband is improper. That the children are being raised in an unsuitable environment. That's a lie. I know, but it's a lie that's hard to disprove. Martha's hands clenched on the table. So, what do we do? Caleb was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. The attorney suggested something. What? He said the simplest way to solve this would be if you weren't living alone with me. I don't understand. Caleb met her eyes. He said if we were married, there'd be nothing improper about it. A man and wife raising children together. No judge would argue with that. The words hung in the air between them. Martha stopped breathing. You're not serious. I'm not asking. I'm just telling you what he said. Caleb. I know. He held up a hand. I know how it sounds. And I want you to know I'm not suggesting it. Marriage isn't something to be done out of convenience. No, it's not. But I wanted you to have all the information, so you can decide what's best. Martha stared at him. This man who'd given her a job, a home, a chance. Who'd ridden to town to fight for children that weren't his. Who sat across from her now with careful eyes and steady hands. Why would you even consider it? I didn't say I was considering it. But you're thinking about it. Caleb leaned back in his chair. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. I think about a lot of things, he said quietly. Doesn't mean I act on them. What kind of things? Martha. Tell me. A long pause. The lamp flickered between them. I think about what it would be like, Caleb said slowly, to come home to something other than silence, to hear children laughing in this house, to sit at a table with people who want to be here. His voice roughened. I've been alone a long time. Maybe too long. Martha's chest ached. Caleb. But I won't ask you to marry me just to solve a problem. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to either of us. What if it's not just about solving a problem? The question left her mouth before she could stop it. Caleb went still. What do you mean? Martha didn't know. She didn't know what she meant, what she felt, what she wanted. Everything was tangled up inside her fear and hope, and something else she couldn't name. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know anything anymore. Caleb reached across the table. His hand covered hers, warm and rough. You don't have to decide tonight. You don't have to decide anything. But Horace is coming. And we'll be ready for him, one way or another. How? By showing that judge exactly who you are. A mother who loves her children. A woman who works harder than anyone I've ever met. A person worth believing in. His hand tightened on hers. You're not alone, Martha. Whatever happens, you're not alone. She looked at their hands intertwined on the table. at the man who'd asked her one question and never stopped believing in her answer. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know. I don't want to lose them." "You won't? You don't know that." "No." He met her eyes. "But I believe it, and sometimes belief is enough." Martha held onto his hand like it was the only solid thing in the world. And in that moment, it was. The days that followed were a blur of preparation. Caleb had Doc Eleanor Hayes come to the ranch. She examined the children, declared them healthy and well cared for, and wrote a letter to that effect. "I'll testify if you need me," she told Martha. "I've seen what that Webb man is claiming, and it's hogwash." "You've seen the claims. Word travels fast in small towns." Doc Hayes patted her arm. "Don't worry. The truth has a way of coming out." Old Pete and Billy both agreed to speak on Martha's behalf. They'd seen her work, seen how she cared for the children, seen the change she'd brought to the ranch. "You're the best thing that's happened to this place in years," Billy said earnestly. "Anyone who says different is a fool." "Billy," Pete's voice carried its usual warning. "What it's true." Even Mrs. Hatfield, the woman from the general store who'd whispered behind her hand, came to the ranch one afternoon. Martha tensed when she saw her. "Mrs. Brennan." The woman stood stiffly on the porch. "I wanted to apologize." "Apologize?" "For what I said, what I thought." Mrs. Hatfield looked at the ground. "I heard about what that man from Missouri is trying to do. Taking children from their mother. It ain't right." Martha studied her. "What changed your mind?" "My daughter. She told me I was being cruel." The woman's voice caught. She was right. Martha stood there for a long moment. Part of her wanted to slam the door, to tell this woman exactly where she could put her apology. But another part remembered what she'd told Lily Rose. "Being kind doesn't cost you a single penny. Would you like to come in for tea?" Mrs. Hatfield's eyes went wide. "You'd have me after everything. Everyone deserves a second chance." The woman's face crumpled. She nodded, wiping her eyes, and stepped inside. They talked for an hour. By the end, Mrs. Hatfield was holding Ruth on her lap and making faces that made the baby laugh. "You're a good mother," she said before she left. "Anyone can see that." "Thank you. I'll speak to the judge if you need me. Tell him what I've seen." "What have you seen?" Mrs. Hatfield smiled sadly. "A woman who forgave me when she didn't have to. That says more than any lawyer's words." She left, and Martha sat alone on the porch watching the sunset. 3 more days until Horace arrived. 3 more days to prepare for the fight of her life. The night before Horace was due to arrive, Martha couldn't sleep. She lay in her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her children breathe. Ruth murmured in her sleep. Jake had his thumb in his mouth. Lily Rose curled around the orange kitten Caleb had let her keep. Sammy was awake. "Mama." "Yes, baby." "Are you scared?" Martha considered lying. Decided against it. "Yes." "Me too." A pause. "What if the bad man takes us away?" Martha got out of bed, crossed to where Sammy lay. She sat on the edge of his mattress, stroked his hair. "No one is taking you away." "You promise." "I promise." "Mr. Stone promised too." Martha's hand stilled. "When did he say that?" "Today. When I was helping him with the horses." Sammy's voice was small but steady. "He said no one was going to hurt his family. And then he looked at me real serious and said, 'That means you, Sammy. All of you.'" Martha's eyes burned. "He said that, 'Yes, ma'am.'" Sammy was quiet for a moment. "Mama." "Yes." "Is Mr. Stone going to be my new pa?" The question hit her like a wave. She couldn't breathe. "I don't know, baby. I think he'd be a good pa." "Why do you say that?" "Because he looks at you the way Pa used to look at you, before he got sick." Sammy's voice dropped to a whisper. "Like you're the best thing he ever saw." Martha couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Go to sleep, Sammy. Yes, ma'am. She kissed his forehead, returned to her own bed. But sleep didn't come. She lay awake until dawn, thinking about what her 5-year-old son had seen that she'd been too afraid to notice. The morning sun was barely up when the rider appeared on the horizon. Martha saw him from the kitchen window. Her stomach dropped. Horace Webb had arrived. Martha's hands went cold. She gripped the edge of the counter, steadied herself. Through the window, she watched the rider approach a dark figure against the morning light, moving slow and deliberate, like a man who had all the time in the world. "Mama!" She turned. Sammy stood in the doorway, still in his nightclothes. His eyes were wide. "Take your brother and sisters to the cabin. Stay there until I come for you." "But Mama." "Now, Sammy." He ran. Martha wiped her hands on her apron, smoothed her hair, and walked to the front porch. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Caleb was already there. He stood at the edge of the steps, arms loose at his sides, watching the rider approach. He didn't turn when Martha came out, but his voice carried back to her. "Stay behind me. This is my fight. It's our fight now." The rider reached the yard and stopped. He dismounted slow, taking his time brushing dust from his coat, like he was arriving at a church social instead of a confrontation. Horace Webb looked exactly as Martha remembered. Tall, thin, with a face like a hatchet and eyes that never quite warmed. His suit was too fine for the territory, his boots too polished. Everything about him screamed money, power, control. He smiled when he saw her. "Martha, you look well." "Horace, it's been a long time." "Not long enough." His smile didn't waver. He turned his attention to Caleb, looked him up and down like a man appraising livestock. "And you must be Mr. Stone. I've heard about you." "Have you?" "Small towns talk." Horace stepped closer. "They say you've been taking care of my brother's family." "I gave them jobs. There's a difference." "Is there?" Horace's eyes flicked to Martha, then back to Caleb. "I wonder what Thomas would think. His widow living with another man. His children calling a stranger pa." Martha stepped forward. "My children don't call anyone that." "Not yet." Horace smiled again. "Give it time." "What do you want, Horace?" "I told you in my letter. I want what's best for the children." "No, you want something else. You've never cared about those children in your life." Horace's smile finally cracked. Just a little. Just enough. "That's not true, Martha. I care deeply." "Then why didn't you come to the funeral? Why didn't you offer help when I lost the farm? Why did you wait until now?" "I had business matters to attend to." "You had 8 months. And now I'm here." He spread his hands. "Better late than never, as they say." Caleb stepped between them. "I think you should state your business clearly, Mr. Webb. Then I think you should leave." Horace's eyes hardened. "I don't take orders from hired hands. This is my land, my ranch. You're standing on my property." Caleb's voice didn't rise, but something in it shifted, turned cold. "So I'll say it again. State your business, then leave." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Horace reached into his coat. Martha flinched. He pulled out a folded document, held it up. "This is a petition for custody, filed with the court in Glenwood Springs. There's a hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning." He looked at Martha. "I suggest you attend." "Tomorrow?" Martha's voice cracked. "That's not enough time." "On the contrary, it's plenty of time." Horace stepped closer. "You see, Martha, I've already spoken with the judge, presented my case, shared my concerns about the children's welfare." "You had no right?" "I had every right, as their uncle, as their closest male relative." His voice dropped. "As someone who actually has the means to provide for them." Martha's hands shook. I'm providing for them. Are you working as a cook in a stranger's house? Living in a cabin meant for hired hands? Horace shook his head. That's not a life for children. That's survival. And survival isn't enough. It's more than you ever offered. Perhaps, but I'm offering now. He tucked the document back into his coat. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock, the courthouse in Glenwood Springs. Be there, Martha, or I'll have the sheriff bring the children to me. He turned and walked back to his horse. Martha lunged forward. Caleb caught her arm. Don't. Let me go. Martha, don't. She watched Horace mount his horse, tip his hat, and ride away. Her whole body trembled with rage. He can't do this. We'll fight it. Tomorrow, Caleb, he said, tomorrow. That's not enough time to prepare to gather witnesses to. Then we'll work with what we have. What if it's not enough? Caleb turned her to face him. His hands gripped her shoulders, firm but gentle. Look at me. She did. It will be enough. Because you're enough. Do you understand? Caleb, do you understand? She nodded. Didn't trust herself to speak. Good. He released her. Now go check on the children. I'll ride to town. Let our witnesses know what's happening. They won't have time. They'll make time. He was already walking toward the stable. Pack what you need for overnight. We leave at first light. Martha stood alone on the porch watching him go. Then she ran to the cabin. The children were huddled together on Sammy's bed. Ruth was crying. Jake had his thumb in his mouth. Lily Rose clutched her kitten like a lifeline. Sammy stood in front of them, all small fists clenched. Is he gone, Mama? He's gone. Is he the bad man? Martha knelt down, gathered all four of them into her arms. They pressed against her, warm and frightened, and hers. Listen to me, she said. All of you. Listen carefully. They went still. Tomorrow we're going to see a judge. That's a man who decides things. The bad man, your Uncle Horace, he's going to try to take you away from me. Lily Rose whimpered. I don't want to go with him. You won't, baby. I promise. How do you know? Because I'm going to fight for you. Mr. Stone is going to fight for you. And lots of other people too. She pulled back, looked at each of their faces. But I need you to be brave. Can you do that? Sammy nodded first, then Lily Rose, then Jake, copying his siblings. Ruth just kept crying. Brave like cowboys? Sammy asked. Braver than cowboys? Braver than Mr. Stone? Martha's throat tightened. Just as brave as Mr. Stone. She held them until they stopped shaking. Then she started to pack. Caleb returned after sunset. His face was grim but determined. Doc Hayes will be there. Mrs. Hatfield too. Pete and Billy are riding out tonight to spread the word. Will anyone else come? I don't know. He sat down heavily at the kitchen table. But we'll have what we have. Martha set a plate in front of him. He didn't touch it. There's something else, he said. What? I stopped by the telegraph office. Sent a wire to a friend in Kansas City, a lawyer I served with in the war. And he wired back. Caleb pulled a folded paper from his pocket. Says he's seen cases like this before. Says the key is motive. Motive? Why, Horace wants the children. If we can prove he has an ulterior motive, something other than their welfare, it could sway the judge. Martha sat down across from him. I've thought about that. I told you there has to be a reason. Horace doesn't do anything without a reason. So what's the reason? I don't know. They sat in silence for a long moment. What about Thomas? Caleb asked. Did he leave anything behind? Debts, assets, anything Horace might want? Nothing. The bank took everything. Are you sure? The lawyer showed me the documents. Thomas owed more than the farm was worth. There was nothing left. Caleb frowned. Then why would Horace? He stopped. Martha leaned forward. What? My friend mentioned something in his wire. Asked if Thomas had any insurance policies. Insurance? Life insurance. Some men take out policies, especially if they have families. The payout goes to the beneficiary after they die. Martha's mind raced. Thomas never mentioned anything like that. Would he have told you? I don't know. Caleb's eyes narrowed. Who would know? His lawyer, maybe. But he's in Missouri. Is there anyone else? Anyone Thomas might have confided in? Martha thought hard. Then her eyes went wide. His mother. What? Thomas's mother. She's still alive, lives with Horace. Would she know about an insurance policy? If anyone would, it's her. Martha's heart pounded. But I can't get to Missouri before the hearing. You don't have to. Caleb stood. The telegraph office is still open. We can send her a wire, ask her directly. She won't answer. Horace controls everything. The mail, the money, everything. Then we ask someone else to check. Caleb grabbed his hat. Come on, we're running out of time. They rode to town in the dark. The telegraph office was just closing, but Caleb convinced the operator to stay. Martha dictated a wire to Thomas's former lawyer in Missouri, asking about any insurance policies. Then another to the county clerk requesting copies of any documents filed in Thomas's name. They won't respond in time, she said as they walked back to the horses. Maybe not, but we have to try. What if there's nothing? Caleb stopped, turned to face her. Then we tell the truth. About who you are, what you've done, what you're willing to do for those children. He took her hands. Sometimes the truth is enough. And if it's not, then we figure out the next step. He squeezed her hands. Together. Martha looked at him in the lamplight. This man who'd asked her one question and never stopped fighting for her answer. Caleb. Yes. If we lose tomorrow, we won't. But if we do. Her voice broke. I need you to know that these past weeks, they've been the best I've had in a long time. You gave me more than a job. You gave me hope. Martha. Let me finish. She stepped closer. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that I'm grateful. For everything. For asking me what I could do instead of what I'd done. For believing me when no one else would. For standing beside me when you didn't have to. Caleb's hands tightened on hers. I'd do it again, he said quietly. 1,000 times. Why? You know why. She did. She'd known for days, maybe weeks. Had felt it building between them like heat before a storm. Caleb. Yes. When this is over. Don't. Don't what? Don't make promises you might not be able to keep. His voice was rough. Let's get through tomorrow first. She nodded. He was right. Tomorrow had to come first. But standing there in the darkness, their hands intertwined, Martha let herself imagine what might come after. And for the first time, that future didn't terrify her. They returned to the ranch after midnight. Martha checked on the children all sleeping, then went to her own bed. She didn't sleep. At dawn, Caleb knocked on the cabin door. It's time. The ride to Glenwood Springs took 3 hours. Martha held Ruth on her lap, while the other children sat in the wagon bed unusually quiet. Sammy kept his eyes on the road ahead. Lily Rose clutched her kitten, which Caleb had let her bring. For courage, he'd said. They arrived at the courthouse with an hour to spare. Martha's heart sank when she saw the crowd. 12 people milled outside the building, and half of them she didn't recognize. But she spotted Doc Hayes near the entrance and Mrs. Hatfield beside her. Pete and Billy stood off to the side, hats in their hands, looking uncomfortable in their Sunday clothes. And there was Horace. He stood at the top of the courthouse steps, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. Lawyers, Martha guessed. His lawyers. He smiled when he saw her. Martha, how kind of you to come. I didn't have a choice. We always have choices. He looked at the children, his smile widening. Hello there. Do you remember your Uncle Horace? Sammy stepped in front of his siblings. "Leave us alone." "Such manners." Horace shook his head. "This is exactly what I was worried about. Children raised without proper discipline." "They have plenty of discipline," Martha said. "They also have love, something you wouldn't understand." "I understand more than you think." Horace turned to his lawyers. "Shall we go inside?" The courtroom was smaller than Martha expected. A few rows of wooden benches, a raised platform for the judge, a table on either side for the opposing parties. Horace and his lawyers took one table. Martha and Caleb took the other. The children sat in the front row with Doc Hayes, who'd offered to watch them during the proceedings. "All rise." Judge Harper entered through a side door. He was older than Martha expected, with white hair and a face lined with decades of decisions. He sat heavily, adjusted his spectacles, and looked at the papers before him. "This is the matter of Webb versus Brennan custody petition for the minor children of Thomas and Martha Brennan." He looked up. "Mr. Webb, you filed this petition." "I did, Your Honor." "State your case." Horace stood. "Your Honor, I'm here out of concern for my brother's children. Since Thomas's death, they've been living in unsuitable conditions. Their mother has no means of support, no permanent residence, and has been residing with an unmarried man for the past month." "Objection." Caleb rose. "Mrs. Brennan is employed on my ranch. She works as a cook and housekeeper. She and her children live in a separate residence on the property." The judge turned to Horace. "Is this true?" "The arrangement is improper, regardless of the specifics." "That's not for you to decide. It's for me to decide." Judge Harper looked at Martha. "Mrs. Brennan, stand, please." Martha stood. Her legs shook. "Tell me about your living situation." "Your Honor, I work for Mr. Stone. I cook meals, clean the house, do laundry. In exchange, I receive wages and a place to live for myself and my children." "And what is your relationship with Mr. Stone?" Martha's face heated. "He's my employer. Nothing more." "That's not what I've heard," Horace interrupted. "There are witnesses who've seen them together, alone, at night." "We talked on the porch," Caleb said. "After the children were asleep, there was nothing improper about it." "That's your version." "That's the truth." Judge Harper held up his hand. "Enough. I'll hear testimony from witnesses, not accusations." He looked at Horace. "Mr. Webb, what evidence do you have that these children are being mistreated or neglected?" Horace smiled. "I have testimony from citizens of this community who will attest to Mrs. Brennan's character." "What testimony?" One of the lawyers stood. "We'd like to call Mr. Harold Pruitt." The man from the general store walked forward. Martha's stomach dropped. "Mr. Pruitt, tell the court what you know about Mrs. Brennan." Pruitt shifted uncomfortably. "She came into my store a few weeks back. Looked rough. Kids were dirty hungry. She was begging for work." "And what did you tell her?" "That I couldn't help." He glanced at Martha. "I didn't think she was fit to work." "Why not?" "She looked desperate, wild almost, like she might steal something if I turned my back." Martha's nails dug into her palms. "Did she steal anything?" "No, but she had that look." "Thank you, Mr. Pruitt." The judge made a note. "Any more witnesses for the petitioner?" "Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to call Mrs. Adelaide Turner." A woman Martha didn't recognize walked forward. Middle-aged, sharp-faced, wearing a dress that cost more than everything Martha owned combined. "Mrs. Turner, what do you know about Mrs. Brennan?" "I saw her in town 2 weeks ago. She was living at the Stone Ranch by then." The woman's lip curled. Everyone was talking about it. A widow with 4 children living with a bachelor. It's shameful. "Did you witness anything specific?" "I saw her riding in Mr. Stone's wagon, sitting right next to him, close as you please. The children were in the back. It was indecent." "That's enough," the judge said. "I've heard this before, and I'll hear it again. Sitting next to someone in a wagon is not evidence of impropriety." He turned to Martha. "Mrs. Brennan, do you have witnesses of your own?" "She does, Your Honor." Doc Hayes stood. "State your name for the record." "Eleanor Hayes. I'm the physician in this town. What can you tell us about Mrs. Brennan and her children? I examined those children last week. All 4 of them are healthy, well-fed, and clean. I've seen neglected children in my practice. These are not neglected children. And Mrs. Brennan herself works harder than any woman I know, cooks 3 meals a day, keeps the house spotless, cares for those children around the clock. Doc Hayes looked directly at Horace. Whatever Mr. Webb is claiming, it's not true. That woman is a devoted mother. Thank you, Doctor. Mrs. Hatfield testified next. Then Pete. Then Billy. Each of them said the same thing: Martha was a good mother. The children were thriving. There was nothing improper about the arrangement at the ranch. But with each testimony, Martha watched the judge's face, and she couldn't tell which way he was leaning. Finally, Judge Harper called a brief recess. Martha stepped outside, gasping for air. Caleb followed. How do you think it's going? I don't know. The witnesses were strong. Horace's witnesses were stronger. She pressed her hands to her face. That woman, Mrs. Turner, I've never even seen her before. He paid her. He must have paid her. We can't prove that. I know. Caleb took her hands, pulled them away from her face. Listen to me. It's not over. But it's not over. He glanced back at the courthouse. There's something I didn't want to tell you. Not until I was sure. What? This morning while you were getting the children ready, I got a wire. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded paper. From the county clerk in Missouri. Martha's heart stopped. What does it say? Caleb handed it to her. She unfolded it, read the words, read them again. Oh my God. Martha! She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. Thomas had a life insurance policy, $20,000. Caleb's expression hardened. And the beneficiary? His children. She laughed a broken sound. His children, Caleb, not me, not Horace, the children. That's why he wants them. That's why he wants them. Everything made sense now. Horace didn't care about the children. He'd never cared. He wanted control of the money. As their guardian, he'd have legal access to the policy. We have to tell the judge. We will. Caleb took her arm. Come on. Recess is almost over. They rushed back inside. The judge was already returning to his seat. Your Honor, Caleb called out. We have new evidence. Judge Harper frowned. This is highly irregular. It's relevant, sir. Critical to understanding Mr. Webb's true motives. The judge considered for a moment, then nodded. Present it. Martha walked forward, handed him the wire. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the paper. Judge Harper read it. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Mr. Webb? Horace stood. Your Honor. It says here that Thomas Brennan held a life insurance policy worth $20,000, payable to his children upon his death. The judge looked up. Were you aware of this? Horace's face went pale, then red. Yes, I was aware. And when did you become aware? After Thomas died. How long after? Silence. Mr. Webb. How long after? A few days. A few days. The judge set down the paper. So you've known about this policy for 8 months. 8 months during which you made no effort to contact Mrs. Brennan. 8 months during which you offered no assistance to your brother's widow or his children. And now suddenly you want custody. Your Honor, I can explain. I'm sure you can. The judge's voice was cold. But I'm not interested in explanations. I'm interested in the truth. He turned to Martha. Mrs. Brennan, did you know about this policy? No, Your Honor, not until today. Your husband never mentioned it. No, I had no idea. The judge nodded slowly. Then he looked at Horace with something close to disgust. Mr. Webb, I've presided over many custody cases. I've seen parents who genuinely want what's best for children, and I've seen people who want something else entirely. He stood. I know which one you are. Your Honor. Custody is denied. The words hit Martha like a wave. She grabbed the edge of the table, afraid her legs would give out. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering that the insurance policy be placed in trust for the children with Mrs. Brennan as the sole administrator until they reach the age of majority. Mr. Webb will have no access to these funds under any circumstances. Horace's face twisted. You can't do this. I just did. Judge Harper gathered his papers. Case dismissed. He walked out. For a moment no one moved. Then Sammy ran forward. Mama! Martha dropped to her knees and caught him. Then Lily rose. Then Jake. Ruth was crying in Doc Hayes's arms, and Martha took her too, held all four of them against her chest. It's over, she whispered. It's over. Caleb stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, and when she looked up at him through tears, he was smiling. I told you, he said. Told me what? That the truth is enough. Martha laughed, actually laughed for the first time in months, and in that moment, surrounded by her children, standing next to the man who'd believed in her when no one else would, she felt something she'd almost forgotten existed. Joy. Horace didn't leave quietly. He pushed through the crowd, face contorted with rage, and stopped directly in front of Martha. This isn't over. Yes, she said calmly. It is. You think you've won. You've won nothing. You're still nobody. A widow living off another man's charity. I'm living off my own work. For how long? Until he gets tired of you, until he finds someone better. Horace leaned close. You were never good enough for Thomas, and you're not good enough for his children. Caleb stepped forward. That's enough. Stay out of this, Stone. This is family business. She is family. The words hung in the air. Horace's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I said she's family. Caleb's voice was steady. Her and the children. They're mine now, and if you ever come near them again, I'll make sure you regret it. For a long moment the two men stared at each other. Then Horace stepped back. This isn't over, he repeated. It is for today. Horace turned and walked away. His lawyers followed. Martha watched him go, heart pounding. Then she turned to Caleb. Did you mean that? Mean what? What you said, about us being family. Caleb looked at her for a long moment. I meant every word. Martha's breath caught. The children pressed against her legs. The sun streamed through the courthouse windows, and she knew in that moment that everything had changed. The ride home felt different, lighter. The children laughed and chattered in the wagon bed, their fear dissolved like morning fog. Ruth had finally stopped crying. Jake kept asking if they could get ice cream. Lily Rose held her kitten up to the window, showing it the passing landscape. Martha sat beside Caleb on the bench, close enough that their shoulders touched. Neither of them moved away. You're quiet, Caleb said. I'm thinking. About what? Martha looked at him. About what you said. In the courthouse. Caleb's jaw tightened. I meant it. I know you did. But I need to understand what it means. She turned to face him fully. You said we're family. You said we're yours. That's not something you say lightly. I don't say anything lightly. I know that too. They rode in silence for a while. The children's laughter filled the space between them. When I was in the war, Caleb said suddenly, I saw men die every day. Good men. Men with families, dreams, futures. They died in mud and blood, and for what? A cause most of them didn't even understand. Martha waited. After Daniel died, I stopped believing in anything. Stopped hoping. Stopped wanting. He gripped the reins tighter. I came back here, buried myself in work, told myself it was enough. Told myself I didn't need anyone. And now I know I was lying. He looked at her. You woke something up in me, Martha. Something I thought was dead. Caleb, let me finish. His voice was rough. I'm not good with words. Never have been. But I need you to know that what I said wasn't just talk. I meant it. You and those children, you're the family I never thought I'd have." Martha's eyes burned. "We've known each other 6 weeks. Some things don't need time. Some things just are. That's not how the world works." "Maybe not." He turned back to the road. "But it's how I work." They didn't speak again until they reached the ranch. That night, after the children were asleep, Martha found Caleb on the porch of the main house. He sat on the top step, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at the stars. She sat beside him. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too much thinking." "About the trial. About everything." She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders. 6 weeks ago, I was on my knees in the middle of a dirt road, ready to give up. I had nothing. No money, no home, no hope. And now I have more than I ever imagined." She looked at him. "Because of you. You did the work. I just gave you a place to do it. You did more than that." Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his glass, turned to face her. "Martha." "Yes. I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." Her heart stuttered. "All right. When you look at me, what do you see?" The question caught her off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said. When you look at me, what do you see?" "An employer. A friend. Something else." Martha's mouth went dry. She could lie, could deflect, could protect herself the way she'd been protecting herself for months. But she was tired of protecting herself. "I see a man who gave me a chance when no one else would. A man who treats my children like they matter. A man who fought for me when he didn't have to." She paused. "I see someone I could love, if I let myself." Caleb's breath caught. "And do you let yourself?" "I'm trying not to." "Why?" "Because I'm scared." The words came out barely a whisper. "I loved Thomas. And when he died, it nearly destroyed me. I don't know if I can survive that again." "No one's asking you to." "Aren't they?" Caleb reached for her hand. His fingers were warm, rough, certain. "I'm not asking for guarantees, Martha. I'm not asking for forever. I'm just asking for a chance." He squeezed her hand. "Give me a chance to prove that not every story ends in loss." Martha looked at their intertwined fingers. At this man who'd asked her one question and changed everything. "And if I can't, then we stay as we are. Employer and employee. Friends." His voice was steady, but she heard the pain underneath. "I won't push you. I won't ever push you." "I know. So what do you say?" Martha closed her eyes, opened them. "I say, I need time." "How much time?" "I don't know." Caleb nodded slowly, released her hand, stood. "Take all the time you need." He walked inside without looking back. Martha sat alone on the porch, heart aching, and wondered if she'd just made the worst mistake of her life. The next morning, something was different. Caleb didn't come to breakfast. Old Pete said he'd ridden out to check the north fence before dawn. Wouldn't be back until supper. Martha told herself it didn't matter. She went through her routine cooking, cleaning, caring for the children, but everything felt hollow. The house was too quiet. The work too easy. Her mind kept drifting back to the porch, to his hand in hers, to the question she'd left unanswered. "Mama." She turned. Lily Rose stood in the kitchen doorway, kitten in her arms. "Yes, baby." "Why is Mr. Stone sad?" Martha's heart clenched. "What makes you think he's sad?" "His eyes. They looked like yours did when Papa died." The words hit Martha like a blow. She crouched down, pulled Lily Rose close. "Mr. Stone isn't sad, baby. He's just busy." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." But she wasn't. Not at all. Caleb returned at sunset, covered in dust and sweat. He nodded at Martha when he came in, ate his dinner in silence, and retreated to his room without a word. This went on for 3 days. By the fourth day, Martha couldn't take it anymore. She waited until the children were in bed, then crossed the yard to the main house. Knocked on Caleb's door. "Come in." He sat at his desk, papers spread before him, a lamp casting shadows across his face. He didn't look up. "We need to talk," Martha said. "About what?" "About this." She gestured between them. "About what's happening." "Nothing's happening." "Exactly." She stepped closer. "You've been avoiding me for 3 days. You barely speak. You won't look at me. I'm giving you time, like you asked." "I didn't ask for this." "Then what did you ask for?" Martha's frustration boiled over. "I asked for time to think, not time to watch you pull away, not time to feel like I've lost something I never even had." Caleb finally looked up. His eyes were dark guarded. "What do you want from me, Martha?" "I want you to fight." "Fight for what?" "For me." Her voice broke. "I'm terrified, Caleb. I'm terrified of loving someone again, of losing someone again. But I'm more terrified of this, of watching you give up without a fight." "I'm not giving up." "Then what are you doing?" He stood slowly, crossed the room until he was close enough to touch. "I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying not to pressure you. I'm trying—" "Stop trying." She grabbed his shirt, pulled him closer. "Stop being noble. Stop being careful. Just stop." "Martha, I love you." The words hung between them, electric and terrifying. Caleb went still. "What did you say?" "I said I love you." Tears streamed down her face. "I don't know when it happened. I don't know how. But I love you, Caleb Stone, and I'm done pretending I don't." For a long moment he didn't move, didn't speak. Then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't careful. It was desperate and hungry and full of everything they'd both been holding back. Martha clutched his shirt, pulled him closer, felt his arms wrap around her like he'd never let go. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "I love you too," Caleb whispered against her lips. "I've loved you since the moment you told me you'd put a knife through my hand if I tried anything." Martha laughed, a wet and broken sound. "That was romantic." "It was honest." He pulled back, cupped her face in his hands. "That's what I love about you. You're honest, even when it hurts." "Caleb?" "Yes?" "Ask me again." "Ask you what?" The question from the porch. "Ask me again." He understood immediately. His eyes softened. "Martha Ann Brennan, will you give me a chance?" "Yes." "Will you let me be part of your family?" "Yes." "Will you—" He stopped, took a breath. "Will you marry me?" Martha's heart stopped. "Caleb, I know it's fast. I know it's sudden. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He stroked her cheek with his thumb. "I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to raise those children with you. I want to build something that lasts. We barely know each other. We know enough. People will talk. Let them talk. The children love me already." He smiled. "Sammy asked me yesterday if I was going to be his new pa. I told him I was working on it." Martha's eyes filled with tears again. "He did?" "He did." "What did he say?" "He said good. Then he asked if I could teach him to shoot." Martha laughed through her tears. "That sounds like Sammy." "So what do you say?" Caleb's voice was soft but steady. "Will you marry me, Martha Brennan? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice?" She looked at this man, this stranger who'd become her salvation, who'd asked her one question and never stopped believing in her answer. "Yes." The word came out barely a whisper. Caleb's face transformed. "Yes. Yes." Stronger now. "Yes, I'll marry you, Caleb Stone." He kissed her again, lifting her off her feet, spinning her in a circle that made her dizzy with joy. She held on to him, laughing and crying at once, feeling lighter than she had in years. When he finally set her down, they stood in the lamplight, foreheads touching, breathing each other's air. "We should tell the children," Martha said. "Tomorrow. They'll be excited." "I know. Lily Rose will want to be a flower girl. She can be whatever she wants." Martha pulled back, looked at him seriously. "Are you sure about this? Taking on a woman with 4 children, it's not easy. Nothing worth having is easy." Caleb tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Besides, I'm not taking on anything. I'm gaining everything." "Caleb, stop arguing with me." He kissed her forehead. "Just let yourself be happy." She tried. For the first time in months, she really tried. They told the children the next morning at breakfast. Sammy's reaction was immediate. "Does this mean I can call you Pa now?" Caleb crouched down to his level. "Only if you want to." "I want to." Sammy threw his arms around Caleb's neck. "I want to, a lot." Lily Rose bounced in her seat. "Are we having a wedding? Can I wear a pretty dress? Can Butterscotch come?" Butterscotch was the kitten. "Yes, yes, and yes," Martha said, laughing. Jake looked confused. "What's a wedding?" "It's when 2 people promise to be together forever," Lily Rose explained importantly. "Like Mama and Papa did." Jake thought about this. "Will there be cake?" "Yes," Caleb said. "There will definitely be cake." "Okay." Jake went back to eating his biscuit. Ruth, too young to understand, simply banged her spoon on the table and giggled. Martha watched them, her children, her future husband, and felt her heart overflow. This was what she'd been searching for. This was what she'd almost lost. This was home. The wedding was set for September, a month away. Martha wanted to wait, wanted to do things properly, but Caleb pointed out that they'd already done everything improperly, and it hadn't stopped them yet. "Besides," he said, "I've waited 34 years for you. I'm done waiting." Word spread through town quickly. Some people were happy for them. Others whispered that it was too soon, too fast, too scandalous. Martha didn't care. She'd spent too much of her life caring what people thought. Not anymore. The night before the wedding, Martha sat on the porch of the main house. Her house now, she reminded herself, and watched the stars appear one by one. Caleb found her there. "Can't sleep." "Too excited." He sat beside her, took her hand. "Any regrets?" "Not one." "Good." He kissed her knuckles. "Because I have something for you." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Opened it. Inside was a ring. Simple gold band, a small diamond at the center. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive. Perfect. "It was my mother's," Caleb said. "She gave it to me before she died. Said to give it to the woman I loved." Martha's eyes filled with tears. "Caleb." "She would have loved you. She would have loved the children." He slipped the ring onto her finger. "I wish she could have met you. I wish I could have met her. In a way you did." He nodded toward the ranch, the house, the land. "This is her legacy. The flowers in the garden, the curtains in the windows, she chose all of it. Every time you touch something in that house, you're touching something she touched." Martha looked at the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. "I'll take care of it." "I know you will." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars multiply across the sky. "Martha." "Yes. Thank you." "For what?" "For saying yes, for giving me a chance, for letting me be part of your story." He squeezed her hand. "I know what it cost you. I know how scared you were. But you did it anyway. You made it easy. No, you made yourself brave." He turned to look at her. "That's the difference." Martha leaned her head against his shoulder. His arm came around her warm and solid. "Tomorrow," she said, "I become Martha Stone." "You already are." He kissed the top of her head. You have been since the moment I asked you what you could do." She smiled into the darkness. "I told you I could hold 4 children in my arms and still chop firewood. And I said that would do. It did. It did more than that." He pulled her closer. "It changed everything." They sat together until the stars faded and the first hint of dawn touched the horizon. Then they went inside to prepare for the rest of their lives. The wedding morning arrived with a warmth that seemed to wrap around everything like a blessing. Martha stood before the small mirror in her room, adjusting the collar of her dress, not white, but a soft blue that Doc Hayes had insisted suited her better. "You look beautiful, Mama." She turned. Lily Rose stood in the doorway, wearing a yellow dress with ribbons in her hair. Butterscotch the kitten sat at her feet, meowing softly. "Thank you, baby." "Are you scared?" Martha considered the question. "A little." "Why?" "Because good things are sometimes scarier than bad things." Lily Rose tilted her head. "That doesn't make sense." "No, I suppose it doesn't." Martha crouched down, pulled her daughter close. "But one day you'll understand." The door opened again. Sammy appeared, hair slicked back, wearing a shirt that was slightly too big. Behind him, Jake squirmed in clothes he clearly hated. "Mr. Stone, Pa says it's time," Sammy announced. "Pa." The word still made Martha's heart clench. "Is he nervous?" Sammy grinned. "Old Pete says he's been pacing since sunrise." Martha laughed. The sound surprised her, light and free and full of joy. "Then let's not keep him waiting." The ceremony was held in the yard under a cottonwood tree that Caleb said his father had planted 40 years ago. There weren't many guests, Doc Hayes, Mrs. Hatfield, Pete, and Billy, a few neighbors who'd come around after the trial. But it was enough. More than enough. Martha walked toward Caleb with Ruth in her arms and the other 3 children at her sides. No one to give her away. No father, no brother, no one. She gave herself. Caleb stood waiting, hat off, hair combed, eyes fixed on her like she was the only person in the world. When she reached him, he took her hand. "You came," he said softly. "Did you think I wouldn't? I thought I might wake up." The preacher cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The vows were simple, traditional, words that had been spoken by thousands of couples before them and would be spoken by thousands more after. But when Caleb said, "I do," his voice cracked. And when Martha said, "I do," tears streamed down her face. "I now pronounce you man and wife." The preacher smiled. "You may kiss the bride." Caleb pulled her close, kissed her gently, and the small crowd erupted in cheers. "Ew," Jake said loudly. "They're kissing." Everyone laughed. Martha pulled back, looked at her husband, and felt something shift inside her. Something that had been broken for so long, finally clicking back into place. "Hello, Mrs. Stone," Caleb murmured. "Hello, Mr. Stone. How does it feel? Like coming home?" He kissed her again, longer this time, until Lily Rose tugged at her skirt. "Mama, when's the cake?" The celebration lasted until sunset. There was food and music and laughter, more laughter than Martha had heard in years. The children ran wild, playing with the neighbors' kids, getting dirty and happy and free. At one point, Martha stood apart from the crowd, watching it all. Doc Hayes found her there. "Quite a day." "Yes. You've come a long way from that woman I first examined, the one who looked like she might shatter if anyone touched her." Martha smiled. "I feel like a different person." "You are a different person." Doc Hayes squeezed her arm. "That's what love does. It makes us into who we were always meant to be." "Is that your professional medical opinion?" "It's my life opinion. The only kind that matters." Later, after the guests had gone and the children were asleep, Martha and Caleb sat together on the porch. Their porch now, their home. "Thank you," Martha said. "For what?" "For asking me one question when everyone else had already decided the answer." Caleb pulled her closer. Best question I ever asked. What would you have done if I'd said no? Asked again. He kissed her temple. And again. Until you said yes. What if I never did? Then I would have spent my whole life asking. He turned her face toward him. Some things are worth the wait. Martha leaned into him, felt his heartbeat against her cheek, and let herself believe that this was real. That this was hers. That this was forever. The months that followed were the happiest of Martha's life. She woke each morning in Caleb's arms. She cooked breakfast while the children tumbled down the stairs. She worked beside her husband, learning the ranch, learning the land, learning the rhythm of a life built on partnership instead of survival. Sammy took to ranching like he'd been born for it. He followed Caleb everywhere, asking questions, soaking up knowledge, growing taller and stronger by the day. "He's going to be a good man," Caleb said one evening, watching Sammy practice roping in the yard. "He already is. He's got your stubbornness. And your patience." Martha smiled. "Poor child doesn't stand a chance." Lily Rose became the ranch's unofficial guardian of animals. She named every chicken, befriended every horse, and somehow convinced Caleb to let her keep 2 more kittens in addition to Butterscotch. "You're spoiling her," Martha said. "I know. You're going to keep doing it, aren't you?" "Absolutely." Jake grew out of his shyness, becoming the loudest child on the property. He talked constantly, asked impossible questions, and once tried to ride a pig because Sammy gets to ride horses. Ruth took her first steps in October, toddling across the kitchen floor into Martha's waiting arms. "Mama!" she shrieked, delighted with herself. Martha held her close, tears in her eyes, and thought about all the moments she'd almost lost. All the moments she'd almost missed. Winter came hard that year. Snow piled against the windows. Wind howled through the cracks. But inside the house, warmth prevailed. Martha taught the children to read by firelight. Caleb carved wooden toys, horses for the boys, a dollhouse for Lily Rose blocks for Ruth. They ate meals together, laughed together, argued, and made up together. Family. Real, messy, imperfect family. By spring, something else had changed. Martha knew before she told Caleb. Knew by the way her body felt, by the nausea in the mornings, by the tenderness she remembered from 4 previous times. She waited until they were alone, sitting on the porch after the children had gone to bed. "I have something to tell you." Caleb looked at her. "Good or bad?" "Good, I think." "You think?" She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. For a moment he didn't understand. Then his eyes went wide. "Martha." "Yes." Is this?" "Yes." He stared at her, speechless. "Caleb, say something." I can't." He shook his head. "I thought I'd given up on—" "I know." "A baby. Our baby." "Yes." He pulled her into his arms so suddenly she gasped, held her so tight she could barely breathe. "Caleb, give me a minute." "Are you crying?" "No." His voice was thick. "Maybe. Shut up." She laughed against his chest. "I love you." "I love you too." He pulled back, cupped her face. "I love you so much it terrifies me." "Good. That makes 2 of us." He kissed her, then deep and desperate, and when they finally broke apart, both of them were crying. "When?" he asked. "Late fall, I think. November, maybe?" "November." He said it like a prayer. "A winter baby." "You'll have to build another crib." "I'll build 100 cribs. 1 will do." He laughed a raw and joyful sound and kissed her again. They told the children together at breakfast a week later. Sammy's reaction was immediate. "Does this mean I'm getting a brother?" "Or a sister," Martha said. "I want a brother. I already have too many sisters." "Hey!" Lily Rose threw a biscuit at him. "No throwing food. Caleb said automatically. She started it. I did not. You did too. Enough. Martha held up her hand. What matters is that our family is growing. A new baby is a blessing. Jake looked confused. Where do babies come from? Dead silence. Caleb coughed. Ask your mother. Coward, Martha muttered. Absolutely. Lily Rose bounced in her seat. Can I help name it? Can I pick out clothes? Can I hold it when it comes? Yes to all of those. Ruth, understanding nothing, banged her spoon on the table. Martha looked around at her family, her loud, chaotic, beautiful family, and felt her heart overflow. The summer passed in a blur of work and preparation. Caleb expanded the house, adding a room off the main bedroom for the nursery. Martha sewed baby clothes, knitted blankets, preserved food for the months ahead. The children helped in their own ways. Sammy took on more ranch work, freeing Caleb for construction. Lily Rose organized the nursery with frightening efficiency. Jake picked wildflowers every day, convinced they would help the baby grow healthy. Where did he get that idea? Caleb asked. I have no idea, but it keeps him busy. By September, Martha's belly had grown round and heavy. Moving became difficult. She tired easily, but she refused to stop working entirely. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met, Caleb said. That's why you married me. That's one reason. What are the others? He leaned down, kissed her forehead. I'll tell you when the list is shorter. October brought a visitor no one expected. Martha was in the kitchen when she heard the horse. She walked to the window, looked out and froze. Horace Webb dismounted in the yard. Caleb. He was there in seconds, having heard the horse too. His face went hard when he saw who it was. Stay inside. Caleb. Please, let me handle this. She watched from the window as Caleb walked out to meet Horace. The two men stood facing each other too far away for her to hear their words, but she could see their postures. Caleb rigid and protective. Horace hunched and somehow smaller than before. After what felt like hours, Horace reached into his coat. Martha's heart stopped, but all he pulled out was an envelope. He handed it to Caleb, said something brief, then mounted his horse and rode away without looking back. Caleb stood in the yard for a long moment, staring at the envelope. Then he walked back inside. What happened? What did he want? Caleb handed her the envelope. He wanted to apologize. What? He's dying, some kind of sickness in his lungs. The doctors give him 6 months. Martha opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a bank draft. The letter was short. Martha, I have done wrong by you and by Thomas's children. I knew this even as I did it, but I let greed blind me to what mattered. I am dying now, and the money means nothing. The enclosed draft is what I would have taken from the insurance policy. It belongs to the children. Use it for their education, their futures, whatever you think best. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I am sorry. Truly sorry. Horace Martha stared at the bank draft. $10,000. He's giving it back, she whispered. Looks like it. Why? Dying has a way of clarifying things. Caleb put his arm around her. Some people don't change until it's too late. At least he's trying. Martha looked at the letter again. At the shaky handwriting, the blotted ink, the words of a man facing his own end. I don't know how to feel. You don't have to know right now. Should I forgive him? That's not for me to answer. She stood there for a long time, letter in hand, thinking about the man who'd tried to destroy her family. The man who'd crossed the country to steal her children. The man who was now dying alone with nothing but regret for company. I feel sorry for him, she finally said. That's your right. I'm not ready to forgive him. That's your right too. But maybe someday. Caleb kissed her temple. Maybe someday is enough. She put the letter away and tried to forget. But something had shifted. Something had closed. The past was finally truly behind her. The baby came in early November on a night when the first snow dusted the ground. Martha's labor was long but steady. Doc Hayes arrived at midnight and didn't leave until dawn. Caleb paced the entire time. Old Pete finally forced him to sit down after he nearly wore a hole through the floor. "First baby?" Pete asked. "For me, yes." "Then prepare yourself. It only gets more terrifying from here." At 7 in the morning, a cry pierced the air. Caleb burst through the door before anyone could stop him. Martha lay in the bed exhausted, but glowing a tiny bundle in her arms. "It's a boy," she whispered. Caleb crossed the room in 3 strides, dropped to his knees beside the bed, stared at the baby like he'd never seen anything more miraculous. "A boy. Your son. Our son." He touched the baby's cheek with one trembling finger. "He's so small. They all start that way. What should we name him?" Martha had thought about this for months, had considered dozens of options. But now, looking at her husband's face, there was only one answer. "Daniel." Caleb's breath caught. "Martha." "For your brother, if that's all right." "That's..." His voice broke. "That's more than all right." She placed the baby in his arms. Caleb held him like he was made of glass, like he might shatter at any moment. "Hello, Daniel," he whispered. "I'm your pa." The baby yawned. Caleb laughed through his tears. "Already bored with me. Takes after his mother." "Excuse me." "Nothing. I said nothing." Martha smiled, leaned back against the pillows, and watched her husband hold their son. "This," she thought, "this is what I was waiting for. This is what I almost lost. This is everything." The children met their brother later that morning. Sammy held him first, careful and proud. Lily Rose cooed over his tiny fingers. Jake asked why he was so wrinkly. Ruth tried to poke his eye. "Gentle," Martha said. "He's small." "He's loud," Jake observed as Daniel began to cry. "He's hungry." "I'm hungry too." "You're always hungry." The house was full of noise and chaos and joy, full of life in a way it had never been before. That night, after everyone else had gone to sleep, Martha sat in the nursery feeding Daniel by candlelight. Caleb appeared in the doorway. "Can't sleep." "Didn't want to miss this." He sat beside her, watched their son nurse, said nothing for a long time. "What are you thinking?" Martha asked. "That a year ago I was alone. I thought I'd be alone forever." He looked at her. "Now I have a wife, 5 children, a life I never thought I'd have. Regrets? Not one. Not even when Jake broke the window last week. Well?" He smiled. "Maybe one." She laughed softly, careful not to disturb Daniel. "Martha." "Yes. Thank you." "For what?" "For saying yes when I asked what you could do. For taking a chance on a stranger. For giving me everything I never knew I wanted. You gave me just as much." "Did I?" "You gave me hope." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "When I had none left, when I'd given up, you asked me one question and it changed everything." It was a simple question. Simple questions are sometimes the most powerful. Daniel finished nursing and fell asleep against her chest. She held him close, felt his tiny heartbeat, and marveled at how much could change in a year. "Caleb." "Yes." "I need to tell you something." "What?" She looked up at him, this man who'd saved her without trying to, who'd loved her without asking anything in return. "I'm happy." He smiled. "That's not a secret." "But it is. For me." Her voice trembled. For so long I thought happiness was something that happened to other people. Something I'd lost forever when Thomas died. I thought I'd just survive, just endure, just get through each day until there were no days left. And now I wake up grateful. I fall asleep grateful. I look at my children, at you, at this life we've built, and I can't believe it's real. Tears streamed down her face. I'm happy, Caleb. Genuinely, truly happy. And I wanted you to know that. Because you're the reason. Caleb pulled her close, careful of the baby between them. You're the reason, too. He murmured against her hair. You're the reason for everything. They sat together in the nursery until the candle burned low, until Daniel stirred and settled, until the first light of dawn crept through the window. Then they went to bed, their son between them, their children sleeping nearby, their future spreading out before them like an endless horizon. 1 year ago, Martha Brennan had collapsed in the middle of a dirt road, ready to give up. She'd had nothing, no money, no home, no hope. Just 4 hungry children and 17 cents to her name. Now she was Martha Stone. Wife, mother, partner in a life she'd built with her own 2 hands. One question had changed everything. What can you do? She could cook, clean, sew, and work harder than anyone expected. She could raise children with love and discipline and endless patience. She could survive heartbreak, endure rejection, and keep fighting when everyone else had given up. She could love again even when it terrified her. She could choose hope even when despair was easier. She could build a life even from the ashes of another. And she did. Every single day she did. Because Martha Stone had learned something that changed her forever. Life doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you fight for. And she would keep fighting for her children, for her husband, for the family they'd built together. Forever. That was her answer now. That was her answer then. That would always be her answer. And it was enough.